Awareness as the root of transformation. Every great transformation in life begins with awareness. It is the spark that ignites the journey of growth and the foundation upon which meaningful change is built. Without awareness, change is almost impossible, because we cannot fix or improve what we do not even recognize. Awareness is like turning on a light in a dark room. It reveals the truth of our habits, thoughts, and behaviors, giving us the opportunity to act with clarity and intention.
When we live without awareness, we often operate on autopilot. Many of our choices are driven by unconscious habits, societal conditioning, or repeated patterns we inherited from our environment.
For example, a person may react with anger in stressful situations without realizing that this reaction is rooted in unresolved pain or past experiences. Until awareness shines on this behavior, the person may continue reacting in the same destructive way, believing that this is simply who they are. But the moment awareness arises, the possibility of change is born. That spark of recognition, I am reacting this way and it doesn't serve me, is the beginning of transformation. Awareness is powerful because it empowers us to see reality as it is, not as we imagine it to be. We begin to notice our thoughts, our emotions, and our habits with a clearer lens. This observation is not about judgment, but about understanding.
For instance, becoming aware of negative self-talk allows us to step back and ask, why am I speaking to myself this way? Is it true? Is it helpful?
By asking such questions, we interrupt unconscious cycles and make room for more constructive choices. Transformation does not come from forcing ourselves into change. It comes from deeply seeing and understanding what already exists within us. Awareness creates a space between stimulus and response. In that space lies the freedom to choose a new way forward. Without this space, we are trapped in automatic reactions. With awareness, however, we are free to choose patience over anger, courage over fear, and compassion over judgment. Moreover, awareness is not limited to our inner world. It extends to how we engage with others and the world around us. For example, becoming aware of how our words affect those we love can transform our relationships. Realizing how our daily habits impact our health can inspire us to make better choices. Even at a societal level, awareness of injustice and suffering becomes the seed for collective transformation, motivating movements that bring about lasting change.
What makes awareness so profound is that it requires no external tools. It is already within us.
It is an innate quality of the mind that can be cultivated through practices like mindfulness, meditation, reflection, and self-inquiry. The more we practice awareness, the more naturally it flows into every aspect of our lives. Over time, this awareness transforms from a practice into a way of being. Think of awareness as a mirror. The mirror itself does not judge what it reflects. It simply shows things as they are. When we allow awareness to act as our inner mirror, we begin to see ourselves with honesty and compassion. And from that seeing, true growth emerges. The awareness of fear can lead to courage. The awareness of pain can lead to healing. The awareness of limitation can open the door to freedom. In essence, awareness is the root of transformation because it gives us the power to see clearly, to understand deeply, and to act consciously. Without it, we remain blind to our patterns and trapped in cycles that hold us back. With it, we awaken to the truth of who we are, and unlock the potential to create a life aligned with our highest values. Breaking the cycle of unconscious behavior. Human beings live much of their lives on autopilot. From the moment we wake up to the moment we fall asleep, a large portion of our actions, thoughts, and emotions are guided by unconscious patterns formed over years. These patterns come from habits, social conditioning, cultural expectations, and past experiences.
While many of these patterns serve practical purposes like brushing our teeth or tying our shoes, others can keep us trapped in cycles of stress, conflict, and dissatisfaction.
The key to breaking free from these cycles lies in awareness. When we are unaware, we often act and react without questioning why.
Imagine someone who always procrastinates on important tasks. On the surface, it may seem like laziness.
But when examined through the lens of awareness, it might reveal deeper issues: fear of failure, perfectionism, or lack of self-belief. Without awareness, the cycle continues endlessly. The person procrastinates, feels guilty, and repeats the behavior. But with awareness, the individual can pause and ask, why do I delay this task? What am I afraid of?
This self-inquiry disrupts the unconscious cycle and opens the possibility of a new, more empowered choice.
Unconscious behaviors are often driven by emotional triggers.
For example, a person might lash out in anger whenever they feel disrespected, even if the situation doesn't call for such an intense reaction.
If they lack awareness, they may justify their anger, blame others, or feel victimized. But awareness allows them to step back and notice the pattern. Whenever I feel dismissed, I explode.
This realization is the first step toward breaking the cycle. With consistent awareness, they can replace anger with a calmer response, thereby transforming their relationships and inner peace.
Awareness interrupts the loop of unconscious behavior in two important ways. First, it shines light on the hidden causes of our actions.
Second, it empowers us to choose differently. In this way, awareness acts as both a mirror and a guide.
The mirror reflects what is really happening, while the guide points us toward growth and liberation. Take another example: negative self-talk. Many people constantly criticize themselves without even noticing. Thoughts like "I'm not good enough" or "I always fail" repeat in the background of the mind, shaping emotions and behavior. Left unchecked, these thoughts reinforce low self-esteem and limit potential. But the moment we become aware of this self-talk, we can challenge it. Instead of unconsciously accepting the narrative, we can ask, is this thought true? Where did it come from? What if I chose a kinder perspective?
With practice, this awareness gradually weakens the old cycle and replaces it with healthier self-beliefs.
Breaking unconscious cycles also has a ripple effect. When one person becomes aware and changes their behavior, it influences those around them.
A parent who becomes aware of their harsh communication may soften their tone, creating a more nurturing environment for their children.
A leader who becomes aware of their controlling tendencies may shift to collaboration, inspiring trust and creativity in their team.
In this way, personal awareness becomes a powerful agent for collective transformation. Importantly, awareness does not mean perfection.
Patterns built over years take time to dissolve. Awareness is not about eliminating unconscious behaviors overnight, but about noticing them more quickly and responding with greater wisdom. Each moment of awareness weakens the grip of the old cycle and strengthens our ability to live with freedom and choice. Ultimately, breaking the cycle of unconscious behavior is about reclaiming our power. Without awareness, life is mechanical, dictated by past programming. With awareness, life becomes conscious, intentional, and creative. We no longer live as prisoners of our habits, but as authors of our destiny. The path of awareness leads us away from unconscious repetition and into a life of conscious transformation. Awareness creates responsibility. One of the most profound gifts of awareness is the understanding that we are responsible for our lives. Responsibility here does not mean blame or guilt. It means recognizing that we have the power to shape our thoughts, emotions, and actions. Awareness removes the veil of ignorance and excuses, showing us that while we cannot control everything that happens in life, we can control how we respond. This realization is empowering. It transforms us from passive victims of circumstance into active participants in our own growth and destiny. When we are unaware, it is easy to project responsibility onto others. We may blame our parents for our upbringing, our boss for our stress, or our partner for our unhappiness.
While external factors do influence us, awareness helps us see that clinging to blame keeps us stuck.
By becoming aware of our own role in situations, we shift the focus inward and ask, what can I do to change this? How can I respond differently? This shift from blame to responsibility is a turning point for genuine transformation. Take, for example, someone who constantly feels unappreciated at work. Without awareness, they may blame their manager or colleagues, fostering resentment and disengagement. But with awareness, they begin to notice patterns. Perhaps they don't communicate their contributions clearly, or they rely heavily on external validation for self-worth. By becoming aware of these dynamics, they realize they have choices, they can assert themselves more. Focus on building inner confidence, or even consider a healthier work environment. Awareness transforms helplessness into responsibility, and responsibility into action. Responsibility born from awareness also deepens our integrity. When we are truly aware of our actions and their impact, we cannot easily ignore the consequences. For instance, if we become aware of how our words hurt others, responsibility pushes us to speak with more kindness. If we realize that our lifestyle habits harm our health, responsibility motivates us to make better choices. Awareness, therefore, acts as a moral compass, guiding us toward decisions aligned with growth and compassion. Furthermore, awareness teaches us that responsibility is not about controlling life, but about responding wisely to it. Life will always present challenges, setbacks, and unexpected events. Awareness allows us to see these moments clearly without being consumed by fear or denial. Responsibility then becomes the act of choosing our response consciously, rather than reacting blindly. This conscious response is the true essence of freedom. At a deeper level, awareness reveals that responsibility is inseparable from empowerment. The more aware we become, the more we realize that we are not powerless. Even when we cannot change circumstances, we can change our attitude. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, once said, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." This insight embodies the connection between awareness and responsibility. Awareness shows us the truth of a situation, and responsibility gives us the courage to act upon it with wisdom.
Another vital aspect is that awareness prevents us from falling into victimhood. When unaware, people often say, "This is just how I am," or "Life is unfair to me."
But awareness uncovers the hidden truth that much of what we experience is shaped by our own patterns and choices.
Responsibility does not mean we caused every difficulty, but it does mean we have the power to shift our relationship with it.
This mindset transforms suffering into strength and challenges into opportunities for growth. Finally, awareness-based responsibility extends beyond the self. As we grow more aware, we see our interconnectedness with others and with the world. We realize that our actions ripple outward, affecting family, community, and society.
This realization awakens a sense of collective responsibility.
We begin to live not only for personal growth, but also for the well-being of others, acting with greater compassion, fairness, and respect. In summary, awareness creates responsibility by awakening us to our choices, freeing us from blame, and empowering us to act with clarity and courage. Responsibility rooted in awareness is not a burden but a privilege, the privilege of consciously shaping our lives. It is the bridge between self-discovery and transformation, guiding us to live with integrity, freedom, and purpose.
Awareness cultivates inner clarity. Clarity is one of the most precious qualities a human being can develop.
When the mind is clear, decisions become easier, relationships flow more smoothly, and life feels lighter. Yet, in today's world of constant distractions, conflicting emotions, and endless responsibilities, many people live in a state of inner confusion.
Thoughts race, emotions fluctuate, and choices feel overwhelming. This is where awareness plays a transformative role. It acts as a lens that clears the fog of the mind, allowing us to see reality as it truly is.
Without awareness, the mind is like a muddy river, turbulent, unclear, and difficult to navigate.
In such a state, we may make decisions based on fleeting emotions, unconscious fears, or external pressures.
These choices often lead to regret or dissatisfaction because they were not rooted in clarity. Awareness changes this dynamic. By becoming conscious of our thoughts and emotions, we begin to observe them instead of being consumed by them.
In doing so, the waters of the mind settle and clarity naturally arises. For example, imagine facing an important life decision, such as whether to change jobs or stay in your current role.
Without awareness, you might be swayed by anxiety, external expectations, or short-term desires. But with awareness, you can step back and examine the situation more deeply. Am I leaving because of fear or because I truly seek growth? What values matter most to me right now? How does this decision align with my long-term vision? Awareness creates the inner clarity needed to answer such questions with honesty and wisdom. Inner clarity also transforms how we relate to emotions. Many people get caught in the storm of feelings, anger, sadness, fear, or desire, without recognizing their impermanent nature. When awareness is present, emotions are seen as passing waves rather than absolute truths. For instance, instead of saying, "I am angry," we begin to notice, "There is anger within me." This subtle shift creates space between the self and the emotion. That space is where clarity resides. We no longer drown in the feeling, we observe it, learn from it, and allow it to pass naturally. Another vital aspect of inner clarity is freedom from illusions.
The mind often creates distorted stories about ourselves, others, or life itself.
We might believe we are unworthy of success, assume others are against us, or cling to unrealistic expectations of happiness. Awareness helps us see through these illusions. It shines light on the stories we tell ourselves and asks, is this true? Is this serving me?
By questioning our assumptions, awareness dissolves confusion and reveals truth. Clarity born of awareness also enhances relationships.
When we lack awareness, we may project our fears and insecurities onto others, misinterpret their intentions, or react defensively.
But when we are aware, we listen more deeply and communicate more authentically. Awareness helps us separate reality from assumption, leading to greater understanding and harmony.
A simple example is conflict resolution. With awareness, we can pause before reacting, seek clarity on what the other person truly means, and respond with compassion rather than impulse. Importantly, clarity is not about knowing all the answers, but about seeing things as they are. Awareness allows us to accept uncertainty without panic. It teaches us that clarity sometimes means recognizing that the present moment is enough, even without immediate solutions. This acceptance itself reduces inner turmoil and brings peace. Practices such as meditation, mindful breathing, and journaling cultivate this clarity. By regularly pausing to observe our inner world, we train the mind to remain calm and transparent. Over time, clarity becomes a natural state, guiding us in both small daily choices and life's major crossroads. In essence, awareness cultivates inner clarity by quieting the noise of the mind, revealing the truth beyond illusions, and guiding us to respond with wisdom rather than confusion. With clarity, we no longer stumble blindly through life. We move forward with confidence, purpose, and peace. Spiritual growth, a disciplined mind, is not only a source of peace in daily life. It is also the foundation for spiritual growth. In Buddhism, spiritual growth means moving beyond the surface-level struggles of life to develop wisdom, compassion, and insight into the true nature of existence. The mind is both the tool and the field of this growth. Without discipline, the mind wanders restlessly, controlled by desires and fears. With discipline, however, the mind becomes focused, purified, and prepared for higher understanding, leading to lasting happiness and liberation. At its core, spiritual growth requires self-awareness. An undisciplined mind is often distracted, caught up in endless cycles of thoughts, worries, and external pursuits. In such a state, it is difficult to notice deeper truths about life. A disciplined mind, however, turns inward. It learns to observe itself, its thoughts, emotions, and motivations with clarity. This self-observation reveals patterns that keep us trapped in suffering and opens the door to transformation. For example, by noticing how anger arises and fades, we learn that emotions are temporary and need not control us. This insight is a step toward spiritual maturity. Meditation is one of the key practices for spiritual growth. When the mind is disciplined through meditation, it becomes still and concentrated. This stillness allows us to see beyond surface appearances. We begin to realize impermanence, that everything changes. We recognize the interconnectedness of all beings. These realizations reduce selfishness and increase compassion. Without mental discipline, meditation is nearly impossible, as the wandering mind resists focus. But with discipline, meditation becomes a gateway to profound spiritual insights. Another aspect of spiritual growth is the cultivation of virtues such as patience, kindness, and humility. These qualities do not develop by accident. They require intentional training of the mind. A disciplined mind resists the pull of anger when provoked, choosing patience instead. It resists selfish impulses and chooses generosity. Over time, these repeated choices shape character, leading to a life guided by wisdom and compassion. Such virtues not only bring personal peace, but also benefit everyone around us, spreading happiness outward. Spiritual growth also means deepening our understanding of suffering and liberation. Buddhism teaches that ignorance, misunderstanding the nature of reality, is a root cause of suffering. An undisciplined mind clings to illusions, believing that wealth, status, or possessions will bring permanent happiness. A disciplined mind, however, sees through these illusions. It recognizes that true happiness lies not in external achievements, but in inner freedom. This wisdom allows us to live with less attachment and greater joy. In addition, spiritual growth involves aligning actions with higher values. The disciplined mind does not simply think wisely, it also acts wisely. This alignment is known as ethical living, or sila in Buddhism. Through discipline, we learn to control harmful impulses, avoiding actions that cause harm to ourselves or others. We cultivate speech that is truthful and kind, actions that are compassionate, and intentions that are pure. This ethical foundation supports deeper meditation and insight, creating a cycle of growth that leads to awakening. Spiritual growth through discipline also brings resilience in the face of life's challenges. When difficulties arise, an undisciplined mind may despair, but a disciplined mind sees challenges as opportunities to strengthen wisdom and compassion. Every hardship becomes a teacher, reminding us of impermanence and guiding us closer to liberation. This attitude transforms even suffering into a stepping stone on the spiritual path. Ultimately, spiritual growth is not about escaping the world, but about transforming how we experience it. A disciplined mind helps us see clearly, act wisely, and love deeply. It bridges the gap between ordinary living and enlightened awareness. As discipline deepens, the mind moves beyond narrow self-interest and connects with a greater sense of purpose, the well-being of all beings. In this way, a disciplined mind brings happiness not only through personal peace, but also through the joy of spiritual awakening. It is the key that unlocks wisdom, compassion, and freedom, guiding us step by step toward the ultimate goal of liberation. Harmony in relationships. Human beings are social by nature. We live, work, and grow in connection with others, and much of our happiness depends on the quality of these relationships. Yet, relationships can also be a source of conflict, pain, and misunderstanding when the mind is undisciplined. Anger, impatience, jealousy, and harsh speech often damage bonds and create suffering. A disciplined mind, however, brings balance, kindness, and wisdom into interactions, leading to harmony in relationships and, ultimately, greater happiness. An undisciplined mind reacts impulsively. When criticized, it lashes out. When disappointed, it blames. When jealous, it seeks to compete or tear others down. These untrained reactions often create rifts and damage trust. A disciplined mind, by contrast, pauses before reacting. It recognizes the emotion arising, whether anger, envy, or pride, and chooses a wiser response. For example, instead of replying harshly in an argument, a disciplined mind may stay silent, breathe, and respond calmly later. This simple act of restraint prevents harm and keeps the relationship peaceful. One of the most important qualities a disciplined mind develops is patience. In relationships, misunderstandings and differences are inevitable. Without patience, conflicts escalate quickly. With patience, however, we can listen deeply, give others space, and resolve issues peacefully. This patience creates a safe environment where love and trust can grow. When others feel accepted rather than judged, harmony naturally follows. Another key factor is compassion and empathy. A disciplined mind looks beyond its own needs and considers the feelings of others. It practices kindness not only in grand gestures, but also in small, everyday actions, listening attentively, offering encouragement, or forgiving mistakes. Compassion softens conflicts and builds bridges of understanding. For example, when a friend is irritable, instead of taking offense, a compassionate and disciplined mind may reflect. Perhaps they are struggling today. This perspective turns potential conflict into an opportunity for deeper connection. Discipline also helps in the practice of right speech, a central teaching in Buddhism. Words have the power to heal or to wound. An undisciplined mind speaks carelessly, often driven by anger, gossip, or exaggeration. Such speech creates mistrust and division. A disciplined mind, however, chooses words that are truthful, kind, and beneficial. Speaking with mindfulness fosters trust and strengthens bonds. Over time, this habit of wise speech becomes a powerful force for harmony in families, friendships, and communities. Furthermore, discipline in relationships means letting go of excessive ego. Much conflict arises from the need to be right, to dominate, or to win arguments. A disciplined mind recognizes that clinging to pride often destroys peace. Instead, it values understanding over victory and unity over self-importance. This humility creates space for cooperation and love. Harmony in relationships also depends on forgiveness. An undisciplined mind holds grudges, replaying past hurts, and allowing resentment to poison the heart. A disciplined mind, however, practices forgiveness not because the hurt was insignificant, but because holding on to anger prolongs suffering. Forgiveness releases both oneself and others from the chains of bitterness, opening the way for reconciliation and peace. When relationships are guided by a disciplined mind, the effects ripple outward. Families become more supportive, friendships more trustworthy, and communities more united. This harmony multiplies happiness, because joy shared with others is far greater than joy experienced alone. Moreover, harmonious relationships reduce stress and conflict, allowing more space for love, creativity, and growth. Finally, harmony in relationships reflects the deeper truth of interconnection. Buddhism teaches that no one exists in isolation. We are all part of a vast web of relationships. A disciplined mind honors this truth by treating others with respect and care. By doing so, it not only nurtures external harmony, but also cultivates inner peace. In this way, a disciplined mind becomes a source of happiness, not just for the individual, but for everyone it touches. Through patience, compassion, wise speech, humility, and forgiveness, it builds relationships rooted in trust and love. These relationships, in turn, nourish the heart and bring lasting joy.